today we're going to talk about leading yourself, living life above the line, because as someone that is self-employed in your own Usborne Books and More business, you need to be the one that is leading yourself and leading your business, and to find success, you need to be living life above the line. So we're going to talk a little bit about that today. You can see some of the resources here that I use to put together some of the information on this training, so just that is there for you for future reference if you'd ever want to read any of those books. So emotional intelligence, basically what that is just being able to perceive, control, and evaluate your own emotions. And because effectively managing your own emotions is part of that emotional intelligence, it's just being able to regulate your emotions, it's being able to respond appropriately, and it's being able to respond to the emotions of others. Because this is a people business, and so you're going to be dealing with lots of different people as you're working with your business, but you're also dealing with yourself, and so it's important to understand yourself. So that's what we're going to be talking about here today. But to just kind of share a little bit about what it means to be above the line or below the line, we're going to listen to this recording by Roger Connors, the Oz Principle author. And so it's going to be a recording, so it's only 2.5 minutes, so you're just going to listen to it, and then we're going to come back to the training for me doing it. So just a moment.
I'm Roger Connors, one of the authors of the Oz Principle. Central to the message of the Oz Principle are the steps to accountability. A clear line separates accountable and non-accountable behavior and thinking. Above the line are the steps to accountability, to see it, own it, solve it, and do it. Below that line are the all-too-familiar blame game or victim cycle. The steps to accountability lead to what we call above-the-line actions and thinking. The blame game, however, results in what we describe as below-the-line actions and thinking. As you might imagine, when individuals consistently engage in these two very different modes of thinking and acting, they create different organizational cultures which perform at strikingly different levels. We have found that people who consistently adhere to the steps to accountability almost always think and act in an accountable manner. By the same token, people who fail to take these steps get stuck in the blame game, feeling victimized by circumstances that seem outside of their control. They fail to move forward in their quest for results. We should point out that it's not wrong to go below the line. We all do it. It's human nature. In fact, we can all occasionally benefit from venting our frustrations about the obstacles that block our paths, or sound off about the situations that seem to spin out of our control. However, if we remain stuck below the line, we become more focused on what we cannot do rather than on what we can do. In that case, we set our sights on the obstacles we face, not on the actions we can take to get past those obstacles and achieve the results we want. People who are habitually below the line don't get results. Instead, they grow increasingly frustrated and paralyzed. They almost never feel fulfilled by their work, and their organizations, their teams, and their own careers falter. People who live above the line accept the fact that they are and must be part of the solution. They focus on what they can do rather than on what they cannot do to get results. They look for creative ways to deal with obstacles, which they view as opportunities to make great things happen rather than as excuses for failures. Above the line, people move forward. They get results. They feel satisfied in their work. They, their teams, and their organizations prosper. Simply put, the more time you spend above the line, the greater will be your results. And the more time an organization spends above the line, the greater will be its results.
So I just wanted him to share that because he did a really great job of just what it means to be above the line and below the line. Because it is important, as you are your own boss of your own business, to be able to move forward, you need to be above the line. And then as the Sunshine team, we can all see more success if we're always focusing on how we can overcome our obstacles and what we can do instead of what we cannot. And so that's kind of basically a little bit there. So above the line, some other ways of looking at it too would be you have a victor attitude, you have ownership, accountability, and responsibility. So it's like an or. You are moving forward in your business. Below the line, it's kind of, you have a victim mentality. It's kind of a BED acronym of blame, excuses, denial. And so that would often be below the line. I will make a side note here, though, too. If you really are suffering with depression. Sometimes you can be below the line, but that's more of a clinical thing, and then you need to go and get help with that. So and we're not talking about that here. We're just talking about kind of having a shift in attitude and viewing things more as a victor instead of a victim, and that's a choice a lot of us can make in our lives. One of the things that we do in our business ourselves, and we would encourage you guys to do as well, is just to be listening to motivational speakers and to be reading motivational books. It does help you kind of move past yourself and kind of your own story or whatever your problems are, because you realize that, wow, if they can do it, I can do it too, type of thing. So John O'Leary, he is a man who was burned when he was very young and in 100% of his body, and he was really given no chance to live, but he overcame that obstacle, and now he's a motivational speaker. One of the things that he shares is just this rising above is the victim. When you're viewing things as being a victim, you have fear, anger, lousy attitude, finger-pointing, pride, bad luck. You're self-focused, you're closed off, and you're going to have poor results with that. So, again, it's not wrong to go below the line. It's just human nature. However, if we stay there, that's when we're going to have just poor performance and poor morale team-wise and just in our whole life. And we're just seeing life negatively, and we're just focusing on things we can't control. And so if you can change that and you just start looking at things as what it means to be a victor, that can make a big difference for you and what you're going to see as results from your business and in your own life. And so that's where you're looking at things with love, a positive attitude. You're feeling totally blessed. You have just purpose in your life, and you're going to find awesome results when you start looking at things as a victor. And so sometimes just intentionally looking at that way. We had someone that had lost her job, and I texted her and I said, wow, it's a great opportunity for you to find something new to do in your life. And, so it's just kind of looking at it a little bit differently there. And so that is just, if you can intentionally do that, and it does take training yourself and training your thoughts to do that, because not all of us grew up in homes that did that automatically. So that is just something to kind of be considering, because it really can make a big difference for you if you're viewing things as a victor instead of a victim. So one of the quotes by John O'Leary is, when we focus on what's wrong in our lives, we rob ourselves of fully enjoying the gift of all that is right. So that would be a challenge, and if you want to print that out, it's kind of a way just to kind of change your mind and change your thought pattern so that you can be a victor in your life instead. Now, just to kind of help you become more aware, just kind of this emotional intelligence where you're becoming more aware of your own emotions, we'll talk about a little bit of the indicators of what it means when you are below the line. And so everyone is different, and so some people just express it differently. So when Molly is below the line, she feels overwhelmed that no one's helping her, and she feels teary-eyed and unloved. When Henry is below the line, he talks faster and feels angry. Sally's indicator that she's below the line is when she begins to see people in her life doing things wrong. It appears to Sally that her husband and her children are making an inordinate amount of mistakes. Paul's indicator of being below the line is manifested in his desire to take control of the situation. Francine withdraws and concentrates on negative thoughts. Mary starts to get jealous of others' successes and then compares herself to others. So those are just some indicators. Those are some examples, and so you have to just kind of look at your own life, and this is where a little bit of introspection, you're just kind of figuring out what are your indicators that you are below the line, because if you can recognize that in yourself, that helps you then get back above the line. And sometimes we as human beings, we have emotional allergies or triggers that cause us to go below the line. And so sometimes recognizing that helps us also then to stay more above the line, because we can recognize that, oh yeah, that I have that emotional allergy. And it's an identity quake. And it may not trigger for anyone else, but it triggers for you because of maybe your background. For me, an emotional allergy for me is when someone tells me, or I feel like someone's saying I'm stupid, because I kind of grew up with a little bit of that, and so it kind of is a little bit of just a trigger for me. So I can really flare up and kind of go right below the line when I feel like somebody's calling me stupid. So we each have our own different things, and it is important, though, when we get constructive criticism or when someone says something, just to kind of realize just some things about ourselves. And so when you get negative feedback, you need to make sure that you're not having an all or nothing identity. Like you're saying all of that is true or nothing that's true. So not getting into denial where you're super competent and you never make mistakes, and not into the exaggeration part of it where you're saying that, I am always this way. We all none of us are perfect, and so we are going to have sometimes feedback, but don't let that feedback define who you are, but use it instead to help you grow and just kind of figure out what you can do then to change, but try and look at it a little bit more logically and not having that emotion all tied into it. So here's some things to ground yourself a little bit with, is that there's just 3 things we have to accept about ourselves. Number 1, you're going to make mistakes. Number 2, our intentions are complex. So sometimes we're just complex human beings, and we don't always understand ourselves, but we are complex. And then number 3, we have contributed to the problem. So if you can kind of have that attitude and kind of just remember some of that, that can help you a little bit as you're going through life and just finding different situations in your life. So what is important, though, is when you're looking at this concept above the line, below the line behavior, you just have to look at, where am I living or where am I visiting? So where you are most of the time is where you're living. So we want to try and live above the line, and yes, occasionally we will go back and visit below the line at a hotel, but we want to be sure that we're trying to live in our houses above the line. So that, depending on where you live, where you are most of the time, your life experiences will look different. And so that's the goal, is to try and get yourself to always be thinking and to be living above the line. So sometimes some things you can do, and because, again, we all kind of jump down below the line, we kind of get in our little funks or whatever, you just have to think of, what can I do to jump back above? And so what are some trampoline things that I can jump back up to living above the line? So just some examples just to kind of share with you what I mean by that is, we kind of get into our little funk, and so what can we do, what we need to jump on to go back above the line? Sometimes it might be just spending some quiet time alone. It might be talking to a trusted friend that we can just kind of share some things with, and then we feel better and we can go back above the line. Your team leader actually can be a great person to do that, to try and help turn the situation to help you jump back up. Sometimes it might be listening to music. Some of you, it might be exercising. For me, that would probably put me below the line, so that's not one of mine to be a trampoline, but for some of you, that's what it might be. Sometimes it might be to perform an act of service for someone who needs help, because oftentimes when we are focusing on someone else's problems or helping someone else, our problems just don't seem quite so big. Some of you might need to do some prayer or meditation, just praying about it to be able to go back above the line. Some of you, it might be a really big situation that you're dealing with, but if you can just focus on the present and then put that issue on the shelf to deal with later when you have more time, that might be something that you can do to be above the line. Others, you're going to sign up for newsletters. I do this as a leader. I'll sign up for direct sellers newsletters so that I can kind of keep getting information that way and just kind of getting excited that way. Others of you can post pictures, and then you're just to motivate yourself to go and stay positive and motivated. Sometimes it might be inspirational quotes. I have them actually all over in my office in my house. Some of you, it might be watching inspirational movies because you go, wow, look what they did, and then you can get excited that way. Another thing, I have the website there, the risingabove.com Spark. That's John O'Leary's information there, and you can put your email address in there and your name, and you're going to have 21 days of emails from him. And read his story. It's very interesting, and it really does help you then look at your own self and not get so stuck on things. But that might be something that you can do to get yourself above the line. So those are just some hints for yourself just so that you can keep working in your business and stay positive and motivated, but then also in your own life as well. Another thing to just kind of remember is wait to make decisions until you're above the line. It is not a good idea to make decisions when you're feeling like this lady. So just be aware of where you're at before you're making drastic changes or just going, oh, and then just doing something kind of rash. So that is just something to also keep in mind. And when you are below the line, it is important that you are not flailing your arms and legs around and running the risk of emotionally hurting someone else or yourself. So kind of put yourself into a submarine if you can, and just instead of being like underwater without oxygen, you're going to have a little way that you can breathe. And sometimes just alerting to people that you are kind of below the line and you just need some space and you need to be just kind of by yourself just to kind of work on that a little bit can also help you try and move upward. So do what you need to, again, for the trampoline, but if you're below the line, make sure that you are just kind of protecting others and not hurting others when you're in that state. So this is just kind of some information from a book that just kind of defined us sometimes, and it was just kind of really impactful for me. Just wanted to share this with you, too, about emotional maturity, and it's defining what kind of above the line and below the line behavior is. And again, the reason why we're learning this is we deal with people all the time in our business, but also us ourselves. We need to be able to work on ourselves in order for us to be able to be a great leader in our own business with our own success. So an emotional infant, you can see there, they're just looking for others to take care of them. They're using others as objects, and they really have a difficulty entering into the world of others. Emotional children, they're going to unravel quickly from stress and disappointments. They're easily hurt. They're complaining. They manipulate. They become sarcastic when they don't get their way, and they just have great difficulty calmly discussing their needs. And so we don't really want to be those kind of people, so we want to keep growing emotionally. Emotional adolescents, sometimes they will deal with conflict poorly, often blaming or going to a third party. So we want to become leaders of ourselves. Emotional adolescents will be critical and judgmental. They tend to be often defensive, so they have great difficulty listening to other people's pain, disappointments, or needs, and so that would be an adolescent. Emotional adults, that's what we are striving for, just so that we can all be leaders in the Sunshine Team and in our businesses. As emotional adults, you're appreciating people for who they are, the good, the bad, and ugly, not for what they give back. You're accurately assessing your own limits, strengths, and weaknesses, and then are able to freely discuss them with others. So you're kind of being honest with yourself. You're in tune with your own emotional world, and you're able to enter into the feelings, needs, and concerns of others without losing yourself. So that's why we're kind of talking about this a little bit, because when you're in tune with your own emotional world, then you're able to help and just be more considerate of others. And then you have the capacity to resolve conflict maturely and negotiate solutions that consider the perspective of others. And so that's our goal, is to keep striving towards that. And honestly, yes, sometimes we get below the line and we get crabby, right, and we kind of jump down. But again, our goal is to always kind of keep moving forward. Here's something to kind of, too, when we are considering the needs of others and we're listening to others, and that's really key being a leader. This is a quote by Charlene Kenyon. It's easy to look at people and make quick judgments about them, their present and their past, but you'd be amazed at the pain and tears a single smile hides. What a person shows to the world is only one tiny facet of the iceberg hidden from sight, and more often than not, it's lined with cracks and scars that go all the way to the foundation of their soul. So as a leader of yourself, a leader within your team, a leader within the Sunshine Team, it is important to be a listener. And the deepest form of understanding another person is empathy. And empathy means shifting from looking at the outsider, what is above the surface, to seeing or realizing what is below the surface. And what does it feel like to be in their shoes, or looking at things from their perspective, their experiences, their background. And so you're looking at the world through their eyes. And so if you can do that with everyone, and not just with business, with everything, it really can make a big difference in how you look at things and how you can solve conflict. So that's just kind of a visual just to kind of show you there. And so as we are dealing with people, and you're kind of keeping all of this in mind, as a leader, you need to decide what you need to use, gasoline or water. Now, we use gasoline when someone's talking with us or when we want to give encouragement and help something grow, okay? So it's like you're encouraging, it's positive thoughts and comments as we're trying to create the momentum in our team. Sometimes, though, you're hearing things and you need to use water, and that would be gossip or things that are negative, and you're putting, as a leader, you're putting water on that situation. You're not drowning people because, remember, we have to be empathetic, but we still are trying to put out that fire. And so as a leader, considering that. And when you're hearing something, ask yourself, should I use gasoline or should I use water? And help that just kind of be a visual for you to be able to just turn situations around. So again, how are you coming to things? Are you coming to things as a victim, or are you coming to things as a victor? And where do you need to change things in your life where you're practicing more as a victor? And so when you can start doing that and you can reframe your thinking, your actions, and your words, you will be seeing more awesome results. But one thing I just want to kind of step back a little bit and kind of give you some thoughts to remember is don't undermine your worth by comparing yourself with others. Don't set your goals by what others deem important. Only you know what is best for you. Because sometimes I think we kind of drop ourselves below the line because we start doing the comparing game. Facebook is notorious for this because, of course, everyone just posts things on Facebook that are great, right? And so don't get caught into that game and kind of pull yourself below the line. And just ask yourself, is this the right season in your life? Is this the business avenue you want to pursue? Because we can see all these different things that people are doing, and, you can start getting this little funkiness about yourself when you start looking at others and doing the comparing game. But just realize, is this the right season in your life? We started this business almost 20 years ago now, and you can see our kids were quite little. And so I would look at someone that earned this huge big award, and I go, I could do that, but not right now. And so then as our kids grew, our business grew. And so just realize you're the boss. You can decide what you want to do, and just don't do the comparing, and just keep working and doing it how it fits into your life, but don't have others make decisions for you. And you have to also decide what works best in your world. We can only do the best we can with what we have. That, after all, is the measure of success, what we do with what we have. So everyone has some different situations. Everyone has different skills, and it's always trying to improve, but it's doing the best we can with what we have. So what we do with what we have. You're the boss. You're the one in charge of your business. You're the one in charge of your own life. And so just kind of be aware of that and take responsibility for that. So PaperPie saying here is, don't make excuses or have a story of why you can't, but also don't compare yourself with others. Because when you start comparing yourself with others, you do pull yourself below the line. Sometimes we're tempted to think, I am what I do. And so we kind of, because we're not doing something in particular, we kind of tear ourselves down, and then we kind of defeat ourselves instead of continuing to grow our business in a rate that works for us. Sometimes we're tempted to think I am what I have, and so we're kind of looking and then we're getting jealous and all that, and that drops us below the line. And then other times we're tempted to think I am what others think, and so we're doing we're trying to perform for other people. So if you can just, again, this is just to kind of make yourself aware of your different emotions on the inside of what you're doing, so that you're just doing your business in a way that'll keep growing and not kind of getting into all this funkiness and being below the line as you're doing it. So don't compare yourself with others. But I also want to point out with PaperPie here, I am what I am, but don't make excuses or have a story of why you can't. Sometimes people get all in this like, oh, I can't do that because, and then blah, 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 blah. And you know what? Everyone can do something. It just may not be the right timing for you, or it may not be what you want to do. But be honest with yourself. Don't say you can't, because you can. Everyone has situations. Everyone will have obstacles that they have to overcome. And so don't get stuck in the excuses. just be what you are and work your business and kind of put your blinders on and keep doing that, but don't get stuck into the story and saying why you can't succeed in this or whatever. So here's something just to kind of take really personal responsibility in your life. When I was growing up, my dad would not actually allow us to say I can't. We had to, if we had a tin can with an eyeball on it, and so if we said I can't, like, oh, I can't weed the garden, or I can't lift that, or whatever, we really had to change our wording. So realize with everything in your business, everything in your life, really, you can, but you may choose not to at that time, or you may choose not to because of whatever. So just change the words and quit saying I can't. In other words, you always can, but sometimes you may choose not to, and that's fine. It's just personal responsibility. It's not getting into the blame game. You're just taking personal responsibility, and you're saying, I can, but I'm choosing not to at this time, or I can, but I will next week, or whatever. It really does make a difference in your phone calls. Like if you're saying, oh, I can't call because I've got little kids. Everyone did when they first started probably, so you can because we had 4 little kids. We homeschooled. It's just changing the wording. And you may grow your business a little bit slower if you have little kids, but it still works. And so I can, but I'm choosing not to. So everything that you're doing, when you are hitting an obstacle, though, realize that you need to follow this 4-step process of stop, step back, evaluate, and change. Because if you keep doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results, that's insanity. So you don't want to be doing that. So when you do hit an obstacle or something's not quite working, you need to stop, because to keep doing that behavior is not going to keep working if it's not working the first time or second time. You need to step back, you need to evaluate, you need to look at it to see what you can do differently, and then you need to change. So an example of this might be if you have a party where you did not have very many people come. So you need to stop. First of all, stop probably being the negative story reel of saying, oh, this never works, or whatever you're saying to yourself. You need to stop the negative story reel. You need to stop doing that same thing that gave you that same result, and you need to step back, because oftentimes if we can have a different perspective and we can step back and look at the whole picture, we have a better perspective of what happened, and then we need to evaluate. So when you step back and you look at the situation, you go, okay, there was not very many people there, but when I step back, I can look and I can see back earlier, I was actually not making my host coaching calls, and so that's why people weren't coming to the party, which resulted in lower sales. Does that make sense? And so you have to evaluate by looking at the whole picture, and then you need to change. And you go, okay, I need to do something differently at my next party, and I need to do my host coaching steps and make sure I don't drop any of those. Or when you hit a bummer booth event, instead of complaining and doing all the ranting, you're going to stop that. You're going to maybe not do that booth event again, but you need to really step back and go, okay, did I ask all the booth questions that I was supposed to ask before I agreed to do this event? And you need to just kind of step back and look at the whole picture, and then you need to evaluate, and then you need to change. So that's your 4-step process to keep growing your business, and then also in life as well. So here's just a quote here by Booker T. Washington. Success is to be measured not so much by the position that one has reached in life as by the obstacles which have been overcome while trying to succeed. So in the recording that we had listened to earlier, again, the above-the-line behavior was you are focusing on actions you can take versus the obstacles that you're facing. So you're focusing on what you can do to overcome those obstacles instead of giving up. And so you're looking at what you can do. So that really is the measure of success, is what you're doing to overcome any obstacles that you run into. So again, you're not saying I can't. That's crossed off your vocabulary. You're saying I can, but I may be choosing not to. So leading yourself, living above the line, you're going to stop, step back, evaluate, and change. And you're always going to tell yourself, I can, and I can be a success in this business. I can Do whatever you want to do because you have it all within you and you can live your life above the line and see success.